Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishna. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Girish Chandra Ghosh. We look at his life in this second part of this series. Girish, as we have seen, some of his characteristics, but he wasn't faced with the harsher realities of life. And what could be more harsh than to see your loved ones die? So it's the death and the grief associated with it keeps on haunting the person. His sister, Krishna Ranjini, died. A few years later, his wife, Pramodini, whom he had married, he gave birth to a stillborn child. He lost another sister, Krishna Kamini, and then his brother Kanailal, with whom he was very close, he passed away. His wife died. His another brother, Shiro Chandra, he also passed away. Then again, another sister, Krishna Vamini. Now, you can handle one death. And then when you have a series of deaths over the years, something within you snaps. And this is what exactly happened with Girish Chandra Ghosh. All his intelligence and his great, you can see, genius in everything, was simply kind of pushed away. And with nothing to guide him, the person, as you say, he drifted into drunkenness. And not only that, he became a leader of a group, the local, you can say, ruffians in the neighborhood. They're the mischief makers. And in a few years, he had become a menace to that locality. Strangely, we look at one side of the picture. There are some people who are of this kind of nature. But we don't see the other side also. They may be having a soft side, because it is inevitable that the person has a better side. And Girish, as we say, exhibited both to the highest degree. We've seen his drunkenness and, you can say, drug taking and debauchery, etc. But people also saw that he was compassionate. He would raise money to help the poor, go out of his way to see that they are fed. And when somebody died in the community, he was the one who used to spend money, collect money and help them cremate. Looking at people and their various, you can say, ailments, he studied homeopathy. And it was his nature to plunge into something completely. And he studied homeopathy, and he started treating patients free of charge. An instance is given where there was a patient who had cholera. And in those days, cholera was, the chances of survival are very less. There were no proper medicines also for that. So he, through homeopathy, he gave some medicines, and then he waited till midnight with the patient, checking the patient. He left for home telling the members of the family, let me know if the patient's condition improves. Early morning, he wakes up and he finds that they had not informed him. He ran to that house, to the patient, and he had found that the patient had survived. So he was of that nature also. And like he said, he never liked hypocrisy. And he had a great power of observation. And that is, of course, a hallmark of, people who are sensitive and artistic in nature. They have real great powers of observation. So one time he observed there was an astrologer in the guise of a holy man. He was making inquiries about the members of a family through a maidservant of the house. And then he observed that the next day he comes, dressed now again as an astrologer. And the women of the house, they were kind of, eager. They want to know what's the future and everything, like all of us. But when the astrologer was about to start his novel discourse, gleaned from all the information that he already had, Girish Ghosh goes and breaks a branch of a tree and beats that astrologer. And he doesn't stop there. He sees that he's driven away from the neighborhood. He leaves the area. Another incident, people drown, and then in Bengal, you have ponds all over the place. So somebody had drowned and died. The body was bloated and disfigured, and nobody is willing to pull that body out. When Girish heard, he gets in the water, pulls out the body, sends it to the police. The police was there, so get it for autopsy. And then he spends money also again for the cremation. And he did not return till he saw the entire, the end of the closure of it. He used to go down to the banks of the Ganges. There is a strong belief that if you die on the banks of the Ganges, touching its water, you attain liberation. There's salvation in it. Liberation, not salvation. So he used to go, and the poor, there were hospices in certain locations. So the sick and the poor, they could not afford any other thing. They used to go and just lie down there and wait for death. So he used to go around, and one time he saw a man waiting for death, but his throat was parched. He made a sign that I need to have a sip of water. And Girish goes and gets some Ganges water. And looking at his condition, he said, I'll go home, get a glass of milk and return. And he runs home. But in those days, there were no street lights. That was before the gas lights were installed in Calcutta. And he came to the bank of the Ganges in the dark of the night, and he found the door shut, not closed. And he enters, and he finds a the man who was dying and whom he had gone to get a glass of milk, that person, maybe he was delirious. He was in the corner, but he had come almost to the door of that and he tried to probably open it. And when Girish Ghosh opened and saw that person had passed away. Again, he takes that person and sees that everything is done, the funeral has been taken care of, and he returns home. So you see, he is now not only seeing his loved ones pass away, but also people of the neighborhood, and death is a great, you can say, awakener. Because we start asking about what is life, because this is one of the great mysteries. To an enlightened person, death is a joke. As we had seen, it's a fiction. Yeah. But the reality of this to an ordinary person strikes them very deeply. Girish was something like this. And all this grief and all this death all around made him lose faith in God completely. Obviously, saying, what is God doing? Even a great Pandit like Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, whom Sri Ramakrishna had gone to his house, and there's a whole chapter dedicated to that visit to him. He followed all the precepts of the culture, religious culture, but he was an agnostic, rather an atheist. So he says, when hundreds and thousands of innocent prisoners were slaughtered by Genghis Khan, the generals came and said, we don't have the food to feed all these people, prisoners. What do we do? It happened in Samarkand. Finished them off. So, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, what was God doing then? So here also the same thing happens. What does God do? Can't he see? And we have been trumpeting in all our books and all our talks on religion, God is all love, all compassion. Then that illusions goes away. What is God doing? Suddenly God has become, he's turned his face away from us. But this itself gives us a deeper inquiry into the Godhead. That nice, sweet God that we wanted and we like, sweet and nice and compassionate, that illusion goes away. So this atheism itself is, in Girish's case, it was leading him to deeper and deeper inquiry. What is the nature of this world? But he went through a long period of atheism, and like he was, you can say, vocal about his beliefs. He kept on saying that. And he used to argue also, and he was a great debater. So people used to lose the fight with him. So one time, some people in the neighborhood, let's see what his reaction is when we put an image of the goddess Durga, like the one we have here. It was just before Durga Puja, so the whole image was there, it was kept there, and they kept it in front of his house. And as you know, he was like, he carried all these things out into complete practice. He saw Okay, he goes indoors, he drinks a little, fortifies himself, brings out an axe, and starts chopping the image. Now, this is something sacrilegious. Well, what is this goddess and what is this God? And you see this life and this world, what a miserable place. And where they worship God. Kept. One of his sisters, she kept on imploring, don't do this, don't. But he's not going to listen to anybody. He hacked it to pieces, and then he just had them buried also in the back. That's what. One of his sisters, she was praying to the goddess Durga. Please forgive him, please forgive him. And after he had finished hacking that and burying the image, he got high fever and he became delirious. And so she was constantly praying and praying and praying, and finally his fever left him. However, there was another time when he was struck with cholera. And now people said, okay, now that is the end. Cholera was fell disease during that time. And it was a virulent type of cholera. Now, what happened was, Girish had lost consciousness. He was lying on his bed. He was delirious. And, of course, he became unconscious. And he had a vision. I'll read that. All his relatives and all around here are weeping. A resplendent woman appeared before him, wearing a red bordered cloth. Her face was full of love and compassion. She sat near him and, putting something in his mouth, said, "Please eat this prasad and you will be cured." Girish did that. Slowly he regained consciousness. And from that moment, he began to recover. And for years and years, he was puzzled. Who was that goddess? Wearing just plain white. You know, our goddesses, people can't see it. They're all decked up. You know, they love to be decked up. They're just plain and with a red bordered cloth. And it took him 16 years to understand who this goddess was. One day, he had gone to Jairambati. And mother was so happy that her children are coming from Calcutta. And it had made a big stir in that village, because Girish Ghosh was a famous personage in the city. And people were all waiting. So he comes. He has not met the Divine Mother yet. He knew that she was living in the Nahabad, the concert tower in Dakshineshwar, etc. So he goes and makes his obeisance, and as he's getting him, he looks up, and mother used to be veiled, and suddenly he looks under the veil and sees it was that same goddess that he had seen. Later he tells the other direct disciple, he's saying, after 16 years, when I first went to Jairambati to see the Holy Mother, Sri Shadadi, I found to my surprise and delight that a woman who had saved my life with the Holy Prasad was none other than the Holy Mother herself. And that was final. You know, he became so devoted to her. All his life. it was very strange to see how he used to roll on the ground. The idea is like, you have a bath in the Ganges or in the bath, you come with your wet clothes and roll a little front of the goddess. Used to do that. So this was the turning point in his life. Of course, this comes much later, but he was saved from that cholera. He regained his consciousness and he recovered and he began working. He was extremely, as we say, very truthful. And at one time, he was asked to give a kind of a false statement in a law court. And he was saying, no. They said, you might lose property. It doesn't matter. I won't lie. And so he did not lie. But somehow he was saved from that. So Swamiji, he used to refer to Swamiji's poem also about, there's a Greek god called Janus, the two-faced god. Most of us are not two, maybe three or four. All four-faced. So he speaks about the dark side of the person. Be as one slothful, mean and vile, with honeyed tongue but poisoned heart, empty of truth and self-enslaved. Then thou wilt find thy place on earth. It's a very, the Bengali, written in Bengali originally and then translated. It's a long poem by Swamiji. So he knew he was not that honeyed tongue. The heart was kind of pure. It was in the sense of, we'll say, oh, what heart pure? He did all this kind of debauchery and drunkenness and this and that. But yeah, it was like that. We see only one side. And, Sri Ramakrishna, you say, he has got 100% faith. That was his quality. But, truth is also so paradoxical, You try to hold on to truth, but at times, truth also will test you. How truthful you are, let's see. So there's an incident where there was a neighbor, he was, you can say, Muslim, and he had a chicken coop there. He used to raise chickens, kind of a poultry. So Girish, he used to go and snatch a chicken, nicely slaughter it and all and make prepared. And used to say, chicken goes well with drinks, you see. So the gentleman warned him repeatedly. And then he's saying, this guy is not going to improve. And it's not one time, many times. So he filed a case against him. Now, Girish was an actor, you see. He goes to the court, his lawyer is there, with all the religious marks of a Vaishnava. Their family was a Vaishnava, From the name only you can see. And with that Namavalli, that is a shawl where the names of God and all are written. And then he's there with his rosary. And they like to go around with the rosary, visible to everybody. He goes around there. And then he's standing there in the court, in the witness box. And the judge is saying, this gentleman says that you have killed his chickens. And as soon as he hears the word chicken, he says, Radhe, Radhe, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Oh my God, how can this happen? How? And again the judge again repeated. The Muslim gentleman says that you have robbed and killed and ate his chickens. Oh my God, oh God, how can this? Radha, Krishna, 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 Krishna. And he's putting, stopping his ears with his fingers. This lawyer saying, you see, my client is innocent. He is grown up in this Vaishnava faith, which is purely vegetarian, non-killing, etc., etc. How can this happen? And the judge was so impressed with his, you can say, acting, rather, he was acting, the judge thought that he's really doing that. He dismissed the case. It's not written here, but then as he's coming out of the courtroom, he's telling the gentleman, I'm going to eat more of your chickens. So here we see that great truthfulness. And here we see a kind of, he thought it was a kind of a joke. He took it as a joke. Because no life of property was in it, just the chickens. But as the chicken's life, of course. Again, another time, he used to return very late from work, from the theater, very late, middle of the night. And, he used to be sozzled. When he used to come, he should drink. And so the policemen, they used to harass him. Especially one who used to go and put his hand in the pocket and see if he has any valuables or money. So one time he's saying, let's teach these guys a lesson. In his chadar, in the cloth, the wrapping cloth, he has a pig's head. Pig was slaughtered, the head of a pig. He covers it with the chadar, and he's drunk, of course, but he's carrying. So the policeman catches him. Oh, what have you got? Oh, no, you don't have to bother about that. No, it was something valuable. And the policeman happened to be a Muslim gentleman. And for them it is, as they say, it is haram. It's very, you can say, they won't even go near you. So he takes that pig head and throws it at him, the policeman. And after that, the policeman screams and runs away, and never did he bother Girish again. So that was Girish. As we have seen, in accounts there is come to a double entry, those who know accounts and all. And his father he had introduced a double entry system in corporate Calcutta. And so Girish had also learned. And there were very few accountants who could do this. So Girish had begun working when he was young only as an accountant in various, you can say, business houses. And he became quite good at it. However, during the day he used to work in the office, and by evening he used to come to the theaters, and he was an actor, he was a director, he was a manager, he was everything there. He was costume designer, etc. And one time, so he is saying, as they say, for 15 years, he started young. For 15 years, he worked as an accountant and also as a stager. That was a time when, you can say, drama, etc. Was frowned upon in society. In the villages, they had something called the open air dramas. Generally they are religious themes, and actors and actresses. Actors used to play the role of the actresses also. So women were not allowed to do all that. Now we see movies and then we say, my God, how things have changed. So he was, as I say, he had indomitable energy. He could sustain this kind of lifestyle for years, for 15 years. And he used to work all day and then work all night. It was only very late, early in the morning, he used to return home. And that's the reason why when Sri Ramakrishna said, okay, you take God's name when you eat. I don't know when I eat. because I don't know if I eat at all. Okay, when you wake up, I can't. I'm not going to promise you anything. And he was sincere because his routine was such that he never knew when he's going to eat, when he's going to sleep, etc. And then Sri Ramakrishna, and when I first read it, I said, what a silly guy. It's once a day. First Sri Ramakrishna said twice a day, this is once a day. Not even that. I'm not going to promise you anything because I might fail. And that was his personality. He would take up only things you are sure of. So then Sri Ramakrishna says, okay, you give me your power of attorney. We'll see later on how he gives his power of attorney, etc. So here at this time, looking at all these bereavements and death around, and he tries to drown himself in liquor and in creative things. So he also began to write poetry. And it was during this time that his poems were all kind of full of melancholy. There's very kind of depressing poetry, but startlingly true, but they were not the joyful ones, etc. So his work often took him down the central part of the country. Once he was in Bhagalpur, and he was in a boisterous mood. He was drunk, of course, and he jumped into a ravine down deep, and he tried to climb up. He was unable to do so. And his friends who were there, they're saying, now we are in real trouble. You are an atheist, and yet no one can save you now but God. So they decided, let us all pray together. His friends are on top, and he's down below in the ravine. And they all began praying. And somehow he managed to clamber up. Then he says, today I have called on God out of fear. If I ever call on him again, it will be out of love. Otherwise, I will not call on him even at the cost of my life. So that was it. So this is how God also plays with his devotees. He'll throw him in such a situation. Now you pray to me. Let's see what happens. And then we did see him. He stuck to what he said. He never prayed to God out of fear, but only out of love. So there's a funny incident towards the end of his accounting career. So there was the Mr. Atkinson's, and there was the Atkinson's company, and to get all the workers to have some kind of discipline, office workers, he had installed a bell, and he used to ring that bell. So he used to call Girish with that bell. So after ringing a couple of times, Girish is not answering. So another person goes and says, he's calling you. You're ringing the bell. So he's ringing the bell. So ringing the bell. Then the boss himself comes out. I am ringing the bell for you. How do I know that the bell was ringing for me? Is the bell saying, Girish, Girish? It's just ringing. So how do I know that it's calling me? And then he's saying, okay, you see, I'm talking to you like a gentleman, but I'll tell you something serious. So he says, listen, I have spoken to you as a gentleman. Now I should be frank. I am not your servant or a bearer. I am not accustomed to standing and sitting according to a bell. It is humiliating. And he spoke it like that. Not Atkinson, Mr. Parker. Parker, he was a Britisher. He understood the implications of saying, Okay, he loses credibility if he keeps on treating his workers and staff like dirt. And he accepted Girish's suggestion. And then they became the best of friends. And he wasn't willing to let Girish leave. But as a parting gift later on, when Girish was leaving, he gave him a diamond ring, kind of, as a parting gift. So Girish is now considered as a founder of the Bengali stage. Not only founder, he's a preserver. And he worked in it for 45 years, close to 45. It started off with one particular role called Neemchand in Sadbar Ekadashi. The Ekadashi, the 15-day, the fasting, Eka is Dashi, the 11th day of the lunar, you can say, phase of the people fast. Sadvar is the one, a woman who is married. Vidva is one who is not married. So there was a play on this. And he acted so wonderfully that even the writer of that play was present, and he was so impressed, saying, it seemed, they say, when he woke, the next morning he found himself famous as an actor. So when he used to play a part, he put his whole soul into it. We will see some of his acting talents that he used to impress people. Okay. Yeah, he used his powerful imagination, his intense concentration, and his deep insight into the identity of the role of that particular character. And it was so authentic that it impacted people. There's the entire dramatology, there's a science of dramatology written by a sage called Bhartrihari, Bharat Muni. So the various moods, we will be discussing this on a Sunday talk, I won't go into it. The mood that you display, like love, or anger, or hatred, or jealousy, whatever, those moods, when they are awakened in the individual, they find a correspondence, a reflection in the audience. So when the actor weeps, the audience will weep. That is the sign of the success of an actor. So these are the various bhavas. They are called the dispositional states of the mind. We will see that later. They are called the sthayi bhavas, the permanent. There are certain emotions which are permanent. They are embedded within the structure of the mind itself. There are some which are called the vyabhichari, the transient bhavas. They give rise to the permanent ones. And then there is something called the anubhava, there where the physical manifestation of those moods are taking place. So Girish Ghosh had that kind of depth. When he used to, there's a mood called the heroic mood. And when he was in the heroic mood, people used to feel that kind of heroism within them. It evokes, that sentiment is evoked in the audience. So in one play, he had become so intense that some of the people when he was going around with a sword and saying, I'm going to slay you. And, he had a booming voice and he was huge. The people in the audience, they got frightened and some of them had even fainted. That was Girish. And there was a time when he used to hold plays also for charity. when the Governor General had inaugurated a hospital, and a doctor, a Britisher, had said, all the social leaders there saying, it is you that who are going to raise the money for this hospital, is going to treat the sick and needy. So he had staged a play. He never took his fee, and whatever money, and he told the people, whatever money is collected today, it's all going to go for the hospital. And it was done. It was successful. So this was what he was. There's a funny incident here. It shows his versatile kind of genius that he was. That palace is still there, of course, is rather Devkanta Palace. So there was a play that has to be staged, and it was a Kapala Kundala. It was a famous book, a novel written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Sri Ramakrishna had met him also. He was a very famous novelist during that time. And in the Gospel, you find him visiting him and also discussing part of his book. So towards when everything is ready, the audience has come in and everything. Somebody said, all the script, where's the script? It's missing. Now they were terrified, and it meant their entire career was going to go off. So Girish says, get that copy of that novel from the library. They got it, saying, don't fear. Okay, I'm going to be the prompter behind. And just follow my prompts. Imagine he's taking the novel, and a script writer has a different kind of work. To write the script, the dialogues, etc., from the novel. And Girish Ghosh was doing exactly that, because the manuscript was lost, and he was there behind the curtains, and he became the script writer. He was the prompter. And the play was a success. Yeah, so see, what happens is, we generally kind of give in or give up very quickly in any kind of crisis. Not Girish. In fact, it spurred him to do even better. He used to write his own plays, but later on, it became very difficult. He used to pace up and down. He had kept a scribe for that. And the scribe had no time to, in the old days, dip that pen in the ink and write. Because ideas used to come so fast. So he used to pace up and down and used to dictate the play. While pacing up and down, he used to visualize that character. And as if he was a character, he is speaking those dialogues. And his scribes writing, sometimes he used to keep two of them to take down his drama, you can say, the notes. And if anybody interrupted him, it was a kind of, he used to get into a deep creative mood. And if anybody interrupted him, that was that. He used to go full blast on him. So there was one scribe who said, what is that word that you used? And he was so furious, saying, don't bother me with that. Later on, we'll see the word. But if you interrupt me, my train of thoughts, my entire visualization kind of goes off. So this was, in fact, in one of his plays, which Michael Madhusudan Dutt had written, called Meghnad Vada, at the killing of Meghnad. Meghnad was the brother of Ravana. And Girish Michael Madhusudan Dutt was also a lawyer, and he was a lawyer hired by Rani Rashmani, whose temple garden Sri Ramakrishna used to live. And Michael Madhusudan Dutt had also visited Sri Ramakrishna. So, all these connections, it's a small world. So, in that play, he played the role of Rama as well as he plays the role of Meghnad. Yeah, amazing. And so, another, you can say, very famous actress, Binodini, who also met Sri Ramakrishna towards the end when he was in Kashipur. And Swami Niranjanananda, he was a doorkeeper. He was not letting anybody. And he was very tall, Niranjanananda. So Binodini, what she did was, she dresses up like an British gentleman, Englishman, with a hat and coat and all this and that, and she comes walking like a Britisher, walks straight. And by the time Niranjan Maharaj had any time to collect his wits, she had already slipped. They say, through his legs, she had gone inside in the indoor and met Sri Ramakrishna. And, that was also kind of funny. Momentarily, when you were just about to get a darshan, they say, when you go to a temple, you got to be very, very alert. The last moment when God is supposed to be seen, that particular auspicious time where you and God see each other eye to eye, a veil comes and kind of blocks that. So that's why you've got to be very careful. Don't listen to what somebody is saying, what somebody is doing nearby and all. So when we were young, we used to say, push everybody out and keep everybody. Oh, now don't bother. Now you are all alone. So the veil comes in, kind of. Otherwise, you don't get a darshan of God. So sometimes the God also puts the veil. He probably put it in front of Niranjan Maharaj because he wanted this actress Binodini to come and be blessed. And she did go, and Sri Ramakrishna was very delighted when she comes in, and he said, how did you get in? Oh, the doorkeeper is there. And later on, when she emerged, she said, how did you get in? And she goes and makes pranams and asks for forgiveness. So Binodini also, she acted as Meghnad's the wife, Pramila. So this is how you can say Girish Ghosh was slowly being led by the Lord for a special mission. And we can see why it was so. We are studying his life. And that is going to be an inspiration for many people for many centuries now. Oh yes. So the very fact that we are reading his life is relevant to the larger picture in Sri Ramakrishna's play. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Take a few questions if there are. Did the monastic direct disciples respect Girish with all his problematic behavior? Oh yes. They deeply respected. But Sri Ramakrishna used to say, hey, he told Swami Vivekananda, don't associate too much with that guy. Because a cup that contains garlic, even if you wash that cup, the garlicky smell doesn't go. So he has got a garlicky smell. You don't go around it. And this was transmitted to Girish. Girish comes after a few days saying, how can the smell of garlic, can the smell of garlic go? And Sri Ramakrishna was not flustered at all. Yes, yeah, it can go. When you heat it, so the fire of knowledge will remove the garlicky smell. So they used to, and whenever the direct disciples were in want of money or something like that, they used to go, saying, I can sell my house brick by brick to support this monastery, this fledgling monastery. And that's what he was capable of doing that. So one time, like one Subodhananda, so he had gone, there was no money in the monastery, and they'd gone to Girish Ghosh and saying, get some money. Saying, first you just try to bend my finger. Let's see. And Subodhananda was slight and, not very, he tried with all his might, he couldn't bend Girish's finger. Then he tells his secretary Avinash, open that money box, whatever is there, and give it to this monk. So they had, so, though they were monastics here, living a monastic life, they understood the spiritual heights that Girish had already risen. There was a time when someone was trying to imitate Girish in front of Sri Ramakrishna using abusive language. Sri Ramakrishna cut him off. Hey, that's not your attitude. That is Girish. That suits Girish. Don't try to imitate. So, they had great. And even after that, after Swami Vivekananda had established the monastery and this and that, Girish at Belur Mutt, he used to go there. And there was a picture where all the disciples are sitting down. So, they had the greatest respect for him. And Girish Ghosh also had the greatest respect for all of them. Funnily, so one of the ochre cloth that Sri Ramakrishna had distributed to all the direct disciples, he had reserved one for Girish. And it was sent to Girish. Girish never wore those ochre cloth of a monk, but he wrapped it over his head. So though he was this type, but his inner spirit was really, really great. To have Sri Ramakrishna send the ochre cloth, the monk's robe, to Girish, that's speaking a lot. Forget the direct disciple, Sri Ramakrishna used to see him as such. If you have any questions here, okay. So we have on Sunday, Shakti, the goddess in our midst, at 10 a.m. We also have Mother's Children. It starts at 9:50. So those with children, those who have children, can come and send their children. We also, at 4 p.m., we're going to have a puja. It's called the 8th day puja, Ashtami puja of the goddess Durga. It will be live streamed also. So from 4 to about 6 o'clock. We'll get earlier and then we'll finish off early. And then prasad will be distributed. There will be also a flower offering, etc. And then we'll finish off with the Vespers. The Vespers also will be conducted here. That's Sunday. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.